y'all to another episode of Why Y'all Working. I'm your co-host, Michael Lugusonia,
I'm Alert Jameson.
and we got the amazing Ayo here with us today. Say what's up to the people.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
We are so glad to have you here. If we had the applause laugh track, we put that in right now. But we really want to focus on this second edition of Voices. Voices is an opportunity, it's a series, it's a movement focused on highlighting individuals that are influencing culture, community, and thought, often without the conventional power of wide reaching platforms. We try and focus on people who have the lived experience, clear perspectives, and the understanding on how they discovered and honed in on their voice over time. Ayo is head of partnerships for Dent, a clear force in the Baltimore nonprofit and East Coast nonprofit space. I'd like to ask you, Ayo, what does your voice mean to you?
For me, my voice is something that I've had to really like hone in on over the years. As someone that now people would think that I'm extroverted a little bit, I say I'm an ambivert. I kind of stand by that in the middle ground. Shout out to all my ambiverts out there. But I grew up pretty like shy and not really utilizing my voice as often. I didn't really speak up a lot. I didn't share my opinions actually. A little bit of a pushover for a long part of my life growing up. And it took a really long time before I actually stepped into my voice or even knowing that my story or my voice had a lot of power or even that my story could influence someone else. Sometimes you take the little moments in your life, you take those things and you may not really see them for what they are. When you see the collective story, you like take a step back. I feel like I've gotten to really see how I can really use my voice, amplify it in different ways. I've had little moments where I've gotten to share it. I feel all those little moments kind of led to me feeling more confident where I get to advocate for young people now.
How would you describe your voice?
My voice, I want to say it's not too loud, but it is direct and passionate, creative. I think that I lead with a lot of humor, sometimes utilizing sarcasm in a couple of other ways. But I think that when I want to speak, I really want to be intentional. I think my voice is an intentional force. I really aim to tell stories. I aim to like tell the truth. I'm going to aim to just be myself and be authentic when I do express myself, when I share stories, when I talk about my organizations that I work for or work with or work alongside. Is that I really like to step into intentionality and impact when I use my voice. So not always saying everything that's on my mind, but saying the things that should be on your mind too.
Absolutely. You know, when we look at youth works, when we look at Baltimore from that 10-foot pole, we're seeing innovation, around addressing some systemic issues. I can't help but to feel like Dent, whether knowingly or unknowingly, put themselves in the middle of, a huge change that could be replicated across the world. Could you share for the listeners who don't know what Dent Education is?
So, Dent Education is a youth innovation hub, and we support youth from 14 to 24 with them just kind of discovering what innovation careers they want to step into. So, we support them with providing paid internships and jobs where they get to learn and earn through our programs. So they get the opportunity to enter into our programs, learn business, learn entrepreneurship, text marketing skills, things that are going to be needed for the next generation, they're going to be needed for the future. We spend time teaching them, honing in on their skills, developing their public speaking, building up their social capital, building up their confidence so that by the time they go to college, want to start a venture, go into their next step, they have a clear direction for where they want to go. At Dent, we really focus on like supporting denters through college and their next venture, next idea, and really supporting them as they're like growing through providing credentials through like our industry recognized credentials that we are launching this year. We actually launched them last year. Continuing on that, where we're providing denters and youth the opportunity to get like certified credentials they can use to stack up on their work even before they get to college, even before they finish high school. They already have something to work on. They're able to use those skills, feel confident, and step into careers, jobs, internships outside of Dent and step into their new careers, whether that is starting their own jobs or going to college, trade schools, or any options, but really giving youth agency by giving them tools.
Appreciate you mentioning that. Outside of Dent and focusing on you before you even got into this role and before you even got into school, whatever you did before this, when did you realize that your perspective was different from others around you?
I guess for me, probably from a really early age. I'm Nigerian. So I'm a first generation Nigerian. So that's something I've
Oh,
Yes, yes, I see you. Definitely starting from a really young age, mostly because I really picked up on cultural nuances very quickly because I had to. I'm eating pounded yam at home and then I'm eating macaroni and cheese outside. I'm learning about Black history in schools, but I'm also, learning a different language that most people don't learn. I think for me, cultural awareness has always been a very big part, even just knowing that there are differences within there's different type of Black people, there's different type of communities. I got to kind of see from a really early age different types of people, communities, and also battling bad narratives as well. So being able to, how do I differentiate myself, how do I think for myself and know the difference between those things. I really got a chance to really gauge with different types of people from a young age. But once I got to college, that was probably a new world for me. Going from Baltimore County high school to going to a different part of Maryland where there are people from all over the country, people that don't look like me, people that do look like me, but they sound different. But it's wonderful to one, engage in different ways. But I learned more about myself by going to college. I learned a lot about things that I don't like, trying new things. It's actually one of the reasons I even got into my first internships. I met someone who was also in the same major as me. I studied environmental science and policy in college, and she was one of the other Black girls. She supported me with helping me get an internship, and just a friend making connection kind of opened the door to all the different ways that I'm now able to succeed, and kind of led me to my current job and my future jobs. But it kind of started with making that connection and being in a space where I felt comfortable and had a friend, someone that had a mutual interest and also took interest in me. So when I think about my journey, when I think about my voice, it really shifted over time. I felt even after college, my voice really, really grew, especially because I had cool experiences from doing one internship because that friend helped me with it, finding one. I spent 3 months in Louisiana. That's a cool story. Some of the best food I've ever eaten was in Louisiana, and that 3 months I covered it, and I talk about it and I tell everyone about it all the time. Then working at the National Mall Memorial Parks, I worked in DC for a year, met all different types of people. At that point, there was a real big moment where I actually spoke at the 99th birthday for the national parks at Washington Monument. And that was, well, one, unexpected. I was one of the few people that actually had stories and experiences to even share. At that time, I got to talk about my experience working for national parks, being a part of national parks, but I actually used my voice, wrote a keynote. I mean, that was my first time actually being asked to be a youth keynote speaker. And it's something very pivotal moment for me because I actually learned that I had power in my words. I remember getting letters and cards a couple weeks or afterwards from people from all over the country that were just like, hey, you really inspired me. I was like, me? I just did what I was told or I rewrote it, but I didn't really think that it had the type of impact it had at the time. But this is my story. This is who I am. And even though my family was not born here on this land, we were immigrating, but we're also part of the story of America. The fact that we are here, the fact that we're able to experience things, the fact that I'm able to open new doors that have not been seen, and especially for people that look like me, so that now I have cousins, I have friends that are like, hey, how do I get into this field? How do I know about these things? I get to be the person that opens that door. Sometimes that is also a blessing, being able to open the door for someone else. So that's what I think my voice allows me to do, is open doors for other people.
It's really like unity. You had the opportunity to share your voice with thousands of people as you spent those years, those months, kind of being a little quiet, taking in the culture, connecting with people who charged you, not taken away from you, and that kind of led you to this moment where you could share a story of unification. That was just you telling your perspectives, life, and your stories. I want to focus on a really important topic. This is all focused on the timing and the idea of voices, using your voice for unity. That could be either one of two things. That's either trying to educate people, allowing people to understand how deep the diaspora goes, allowing people to understand and pronounce your name right. I think all three of us have different forms of the Black experience that we've all experienced. But I just kind of want to get your thoughts on those kind of two perspectives, either speaking in a position of education or just speaking in a position of unity, of shared experience. I think those are two very different approaches towards getting to unity. But I'd just like to have you talk to some of the viewers or some of the people that you might work with on a day-to-day about how do you find that balance in spreading your voice towards education, feel confrontational at sometimes, or just sharing about your day-to-day, your lived experience, and they find that, that common ground to build together.
I think for me, I constantly have to use my voice. One, yes, you will have to say my name correctly. So Ayomide, Sekiteri. Sounds like secretary, but Sekiteri. I often have to get to a place where like I'm comfortable just correcting people. Not correcting because I want to show that you're wrong, but I want to correct you so you're right for the future. Sometimes like even in the small things, your name is a power. I always think of names as prophecies. Like your parents took time. They chose that name. They gave you time. So like someone taking the intentional time to say it is part of them learning who you are. Sometimes I have to take a moment. Like it's important to not let people gloss over those things. And I'm saying sometimes it's name, sometimes it's cultural perspective as well. I think that when it comes to education, it comes in different ways. Like I have to, well, one, educate other people about what I do and how I do it. And also my career, the career fields that I have chosen to pursue. A lot of people won't understand what it means to actually be sustainable. What does it mean to be a part of social impact? What does it mean to build partnerships? What does it mean to even be in a nonprofit? I often hear people that say, well, you make zero money. That's not actually how it works, but that's okay. If you didn't take the business class, that's all right. There are different types of businesses. So like, how do I educate you on just the structure of a different business model? How do I really stand 10 toes down on the things that I'm doing because I know I'm making an impact in any way that I can share the things that I'm doing, the way that I'm doing it, and how I aim to always focus on helping other people is always a step forward. Not everyone is always going to listen. Not everyone's always going to like assimilate to those things, but it's my job as someone that's a protector of my personal culture, personal story, and my voice to ensure that I'm always making a step forward and educating, bringing people together. I really believe in community, whether that looks like finding your hobbies, finding your people, to also entering into spaces, knowing that you should always hold your head up high, especially when it comes to how you're coming into any position. Like I now kind of sit in a leadership position where sometimes I find myself, does my voice matter here? I always have to like step back. My voice matters here. I'm here because I matter. I matter because I have a goal of like making change in whatever small or big steps that I do with the roles that I do. So I always take that with me to make sure that I'm always thinking about how do I further the mission? How do I further myself? How do I continue to like pour back into communities, pour back into the people that I love? We really need to focus on how do you set the standard for what that means to use your voice.
Yeah, like being self-accountable. And sometimes it's hard to know why or what you're being accountable to until you meet your family, until you connect with like something that's bigger than you. Thank you for this. This has been an amazing conversation. I'd love to think about kind of the flip on the other side of that coin. With you leveraging your voice, sharing your perspectives, what are some kind of misconceptions or misunderstandings that you might get often based on how you treat and enact your voice?
That's a really good question. But for me, I think like common misconceptions, I think because I'm a very diplomatic type of like voice. So like in the sense I'm looking for agreement. I'm looking for like us finding common ground. You're not always going to find common ground when it comes to conversation. Sometimes there is a way to do things. Sometimes there is a side to be on. So I think misconceptions in terms of like being like not being able to take a side sometimes can feel that way. Even though I have like strong opinions, sometimes trying to be neutral is difficult. And there are times where you're not meant to be neutral with your voice. Sometimes you are meant to pick that side and choose and stand on like what's right. And when I see evident wrongs, that's when my voice should be louder. That's when I should actually be speaking up more. That's when I feel I need to advocate more. When I think something is wrong, when I think that something's not going right, when I see injustice in any type of way, like how do I support? In what ways do I help people? Like, hey, you're carrying those things. Like, how do I speak up? Like, how can I help you? Like, I want to use my voice to like help others. So misconceptions is that some people think that you can't help everyone, and you can help people in different ways. There's different levels of support. You should take a side, but there also are times where you should be neutral. I think that there are also opportunities for me in terms of like misconceptions. Sometimes I find tone is always a big thing. So how you speak also changes the direction of a conversation. When you're passionate, you're not per se angry or anything, but you're actually showing that you care. When you care about things, that means that you're actually invested in things. Sometimes people think volume also can mean like disinterest or anger, when no, this is passion, this is care, this is like actually I have thoughts about this and I'm trying to express those thoughts, and it might be a little elevated today, but it's elevated because I really want to be heard. You should allow yourself to be heard, and you need to find ways to be heard when it is most important.
No, and I love that. Figuring out when, where, and how to be true to yourself, but also true to others with your voice in terms of helping them and guiding them throughout whatever process or problems they may be having. Even if it's not that, it's just like how you mentioned earlier, relating to one another as far as going to school or being at work and understanding the same problems that you go through, looking the way that you do, talking the way that you do, etc., and how you can kind of change and formulate that for your best interest is actually one of the, I guess I like to say, highlights of life in a sense, because when you learn how to harness the power of one's voice, it can do wonders for those who have that power, who understand what it means to be a good public speaker. And even if you're not at first, right, that's fine, right? As long as you're willing to try and put yourself out there, whether it be presentations or whatever. Now, starting off, how did you first begin to share your voice, whether it be quietly, publicly, or accidentally? Was it because you found a shared common connection with a classmate, because of family? I know a lot of culturally oriented folks may not have had the space to speak up in their own household. So like some people don't until they go to college, right? Like they get back from college and now their parents are like, oh, you're all enlightened now because you got some schooling. So coming from a Caribbean household, part of what I went through, would love to hear a little bit more about your experience with that and how you started to share your voice in any of those ways.
The Caribbean African combo, I think it's my favorite diaspora mix up. But I will say, for me personally, I will say when I was younger, I definitely did not use my voice a lot. I actually was really scared to like, I would get anxiety about sharing the things that were like on my mind or wanted to share things with people. It wasn't probably until I got to college, I did a couple of different things, kind of embarrassing, but not that embarrassing. But I did improv my freshman year of college group for a little bit, but I actually just put myself out there. One thing that friends will tell me now is that I was always doing something. What is it? I don't know. But putting myself out there, like, hey, I'm going to sign up for this leadership program. I'm going to go to this event and make a new friend. I actually just put it into practice. So like by joining different organizations, I think for me, some of the biggest moments where I really like, obtained like my voice was like in college. I was a part of Black Student Union, part of the African Student Union. I was part of, trying to like support diversity initiatives on campus. So that's where I practice advocating and using my voice. I thank the Black Student Union at Hood College, which really supported me and actually was one of the reasons that I grew into a leader outside of school. So I'm really thankful for the friends and the people that I met along the way when it came to that. I want to say sometimes they make you speak in class, but it's work. But I think afterwards, after college, is when I like actually started working, actually having real jobs. I had to like advocate for myself, actually speak up and express that I knew what I was doing. Before, sometimes you can kind of like lean in the back, not they don't know if you know. And so you can lie by, but when someone is your direct manager and they're like, hey, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? And you don't have an answer, I had to like be able to articulate my answers, how I did things. I would say another experience, like that same speech that I did at the National Monument, it was really interesting because they had written that speech before I even touched it. So they had created, I want to say, a draft. And at the time, I want to say the Baltimore riots were going on. The funny story is I lived in Baltimore County and I was in school in Frederick, Maryland. So I had nothing to do with that. I didn't touch that at all. So like imagine I didn't have a car. I didn't have time to protest. But we did things on campus. That's a separate story. When they asked me to like, speak on this, I was like, I wasn't there. This isn't my experience. I can't speak this in front of other people. So I actually ended up rewriting the whole thing, told them what you wrote is not my story. And I don't know who decided that this was my story, but this is not going to be what I'm saying. So I ended up rewriting it, doing it over again. And that was the speech I actually gave up, which is, hey, I had to advocate for even the words that came out of my mouth. And that even though somebody chose me to be on that stage, they might have had a different outcome than what I wanted. So I had to say, no, that's not what I'm saying. This is how I choose to tell this story and tell my experience. And it was just as powerful and just as needed than trying to add in something that wasn't my experience just to meet someone else's gaze. So you need to know when to advocate for yourself, and you also need to know when you want to make your stories true to who you are. I've gotten to have more opportunities where I've gotten to speak more, I've gotten to engage with people more. It took taking myself out of my comfort zone, taking myself the opportunity to like just the way that I sound when I speak. I think that's also a different element, getting used to the sound of your voice. I just got used to it, and so now I just kind of ramble often, but I enjoy being able to share my thoughts, to freely speak and share those things and not feel afraid, a little afraid, but if you're not afraid, you're not really living. Fear is also a sign of courage if you're able to like at it. So I think that even when I do it scared, I do it anyway. And I continue to like want to share the things that come my way, know what's right and have a firm stance on things. You have to have an opinion, and you need to know what you believe before other people start imposing what they believe on you.
Sorry, Larry, your mic is out a little bit. This has been awesome. Really enjoyed it. Sorry, Larry, still got you not connected at the moment. I feel like you gave him so much spirit. His voice just got kicked from the gym.
Oh, that's what happens. That's what happens. So passionate that the mics go off. Is this like is that like an unofficial mic drop? Is that okay? I'll take
Well,
it.
with that, we really appreciate your time today. Again, a force in the nonprofit space, a force in the purpose and impacts space altogether. How can people get in touch with you? Anything on the radar?
Yes. So one of the ways that you can get in touch with me, if you're interested in getting in touch with me with my organization, it is ayo@denteducation.org. If you're interested in getting connecting with me personally, unfortunately, I will not be able to provide that information. You can reach out to me on my Instagram at ayo_for the people. That is my professional Instagram that is open to the public. So feel free to contact me that way as well. But I'm definitely open to conversations, open to supporting organizations, and open to supporting our youth in Baltimore.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. This has been an amazing episode of Voices by YL Workin. I'm your co-host, Michael Ogusanya. We got my main man, Alaire, here. And thank you again, Ayomide.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.